Hi, and welcome to the Your Story Studios podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things content creation. And today on the show, I'm joined by Marty, and today we are talking about FPV drones. Marty, what are FPV drones?
Well, I'm glad you asked. FPV drones is a drone that you essentially wear goggles and you see what the drone sees. So it gives you that really interactive and proximity feeling of getting close to subjects, yet feels like flying bird. FPV drones have been around for a while now, but it's still a very much a niche product that you have to be able to really understand, build, and get a really good feel for. Because there is some parts of it that are fairly dangerous from anywhere from like flying, obviously making sure, because you are flying closer to walls, buildings, people essentially. And you have to have specific drone for specific job. Did that make sense?
The right tool for the job.
Correct. Yeah. So, I'm not sure if you've seen a while back, one of the very first FPV drone videos that came out was in a bowling alley. So anyway, what happened was they did this in the US. They flew the drone in a bowling alley where they flew the drone while someone was bowling, and the drone was basically flying in and out where that ball was rolling, and then essentially went around, flew around the people that were basically chit-chatting. They put a bit of Foley on it, so it didn't sound like a vacuum cleaner like the drone does. But what it did, basically, it was just to give you that really intimate point of view, an interactive point of view almost. And I think that's what drew me into the sort of component. And these days, you start off with one drone, and that drone multiplies into two, and those two keep on, giving, each other sort of, different perspectives. So you need, like at the moment, I've got over 10 FPV drones, and every single drone is almost to a different perspective or different type of FPV work. Building it, you actually have to understand different components of battery, because you actually use like lithium polymer batteries, so LiPo batteries. They can be fairly dangerous. They can go boom, in a sense, if you don't look after them and don't obviously take care of them. There's so many different aspects of it though, you know what I mean? And it's just, you got to ask me questions for me to be able to go dive straight in, because
I've got some questions.
I can just go on.
Yeah. So with the FPV drone, you just mentioned you have to build it. So I can't just walk into JB Hi-Fi and buy what you've got, or I can?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. You can.
Yes.
You can. But the thing is, so you can go into JB and potentially buy a DJI Avata, for instance, right? Which is great. And it will still give you a drone essentially that has got training wheels. So there is a button, which they call it OSHIT button, which is just stops the drone and then just hovers it. And where the ones that I use, they don't have that sort of O button that stops the drone. And but yes, you can walk into to get a better understanding of actual flight characteristics and everything else. Avata's not going to do a good job of what you're trying to achieve. It's great for a beginner just to get you in and obviously flying. The problem with FPV drones is everyone wants to sort of jump in and say, oh yeah, I can do it, until they crash. You know what I mean? Because essentially when you have your controls with the DJI Mavic, for instance, if you put all the way your stick to the left, the drone will slowly just move to the left, where this particular drone will start doing flips in acro mode. So the acro mode is basically gives you that sort of flexibility and reliability of flying through those certain components. Avata can do that as well. However, you have to unlock it. You know what I mean? So you have to actually go into the settings and unlock the acro mode. But I've actually had an Avata in the past, and the problem with the Avata was the footage from the 03 camera, it wasn't very usable, not to my thing. I think the GoPro and Action 5 footage, like the DJI Action 5 camera or GoPro 12, 13, you get log, you get, all flexibility. You can get post-production stabilization as well, where, you have to purchase all these extra things to be able to get that really smooth flying. And the Avata, as soon as you put the GoPro on top, you will block the GPS signal. So you're not going to get, proper, I've seen, proper recovery or GPS. It will be, so there are certain things that I kind of go, yes, it's great for beginner, but if you start getting advanced, it's you want to move on to creating your own, where, you put a specific frame to a specific motor revolutions, specific thrust, specific like drone for a specific job. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, before you were talking about a naked GoPro. Can you show the audience that and talk us through that?
So essentially, if you can see this drone, this is for people that don't see it on the camera. It's a home under 250 grams. And what this does is it's really light. It's got protector guards where you can actually safely fly around people and it won't hurt anyone if anything goes wrong. But what the whole thing about it is, because it's so small, you need to actually have to have a naked GoPro. So naked GoPro, essentially where it is, it's a fully stripped down the GoPro to bare minimum. Only sensor and the lens, that's basically where it is. With this naked GoPro, normal GoPro weighs about 150 grams, where this only weighs 25 grams. So that's a huge saving on weight and be able to fly through specific things without damaging anything or obviously putting anyone at risk. The weight is a big deal because you fly a drone up, the heavier it is, the more damage it does. You know what I mean? Where with this being under 250 grams, it won't basically hardly do any damage, you know what I mean, if anything goes wrong. But yeah, essentially where it is, it's a stripped down GoPro where it's just bare minimum what's required. So that's a naked GoPro.
And what job would you use that on?
So I've used this in the past where I had a corporate shoot, for instance, where I had to fly through the office to show a specific way that the office is set out or anything that basically around people, you know what I mean? So if I need to get a meter to people, this is probably the camera on the drone to sort of get to. It's basically small, very light, and very safe to be able to fly around people. Yes, you still need certain certifications.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
This all sounds very exciting. And then all of a sudden, but you need to get this and that costs this much.
For you to use it commercially, you essentially need to have a full certification. So your REPL, your REOC, and then from REOC, it goes up further up to EVLOS, so extended visual line of sight. Okay. Now, this extended visual line of sight, essentially what it means, you can wear goggles when you're flying. However, you still need an extra pair of eyes on the drone where the drone is. So every time I'm doing an FPV job, I'll have two people with me, me and an extra person, where I can see what the drone sees and the extra person sees where the drone actually is. And he, she is extra eyes on the floor to be able to see, make sure that I'm not flying into anything that could potentially damage or hurt people. So, and then from that onwards, you got proximity as well. So proximity is a license where you can actually get close to people, like a meter away to people. So there is a number of different things. And unfortunately, all of them do cost a lot of money to be able to achieve.
And this is all Australia as well. So for our international viewers, we can't really advise on that. But in Australia, this is the reality.
So in States, you've got the Part 107, which is very similar to the REPL. I don't know what the next level up is, to be honest with you. But in Australia, there is a number of different certifications and you have to go through official training, CASA training or programs to be able to, you're almost to a point where it's almost a pilot's license.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to, make sure that I know what's a fuselage and, how the propellers work. So the helix of the propeller and all these different things, you kind of go, crap, I need to know all this. But I think once you're into it, you almost to a point where it becomes very much addictive. And addiction takes over and you just straight into it and you go on, So anyway, I should probably mention this one as well.
Yeah, keep talking to us about your addictions here.
So this is a 3-inch drone, which is so that you can buy this off shelf. So one of my suppliers and I actually work closely with is Mantis FPV. Mantis FPV is one of the companies in Sydney actually that actually supply this sort of drone. And I've done modifications to it for my own purpose, but you can actually buy this off shelf. You do still have to program it. You still have to do certain things. The benefit of this drone is very small still. It's just over 300 grams, but you can actually have a full-size GoPro on this. So you don't actually have to modify the GoPro anymore. So this is GoPro 13, and that will basically do up to 5.3K, I think 50 frames per second or something like that, which is like totally amazing footage to be able to get. And then sort of the next size up, you're getting into the open propeller. So this is my 7-inch drone. As you can see, it's actually quite big and heavy, you know what I mean? So it's got a big size LiPo battery on it. It's got I've put currently DJI Action 5 on it because it's a really good low light capability on this camera. And this is more of an action sort of long proximity, like long flights, that will give you probably about 25-minute flight time. So there is different things. You also got 5-inch drones, which is probably a little bit smaller than this one. The 5-inch drones are more for racing and for freestyle droning to test your skill levels on the sticks. Essentially what it is, if you crash it, you break an arm or you break anything else into a tree or ground or whatever else, you can take it out, put a new one in, and you keep flying. Someone actually in the past said FPV drones are made for crashing. You know what I mean? So it's quite funny. But once you sort of get a hang of it, it gives you that really different point of view. And I mean, look, I've done jobs, in factories where I flew through, factory, like steel factory, for instance, and then it gives you that really close proximity feeling and visuals of what the company does, where a lot of people can't do that because it's sometimes not feasible to fly a Mavic 4 or, Inspire 3 through a factory where it's full of people, You need to be able to fly something really small, yet capture that footage that you need to capture for that client. It's a totally different world.
Yeah. So when you first started using FPV drones, how long did it take you to kind of get a handle of it? Because as you mentioned before, it is different to other drones that you've used in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Look, it took me a while. It's funny because if you're young, you'll pick it up very quickly. My son has started when he was 16. He's been flying for the last 3 years, essentially. And he spent literally about 5 hours in a simulator, where it took me about 30 to 40 hours on a simulator to be able to. And you can buy simulators, so you can connect your controller to your PC, load up that simulator, and try your controller to be able to fly through certain obstacles and get a really good understanding on how the dynamics of the FPV drones are, which stick does what, and how we can fly it through. But if you're starting off, I think simulator is the way to go. And then essentially an empty park with a 5-inch drone. I think making sure that you are in the middle of nowhere because as soon as you put the drone into acro mode, it becomes very sensitive, very touchy, and you can crash it very easily. You know what I mean? So a lot of people sort of start off with FPV drones where they put the whole thing together themselves. So you're talking about wiring up all the motors, your flight controller, your electronic speed controllers, your cameras, and so on and so forth. And the learning curve is literally from the bottom to 150. But once you sort of get through that learning curve, you can just do so many amazing things. But yeah, when you're starting off, I think simulator is the way to go.
Yeah, cool. And once you've gained some confidence and all that kind of, well, you've gained confidence. I'll ask you, not hypothetical Billy over here. You've gained confidence. You've got experience and all that. Who is your ideal client with FPV drones?
That's a great question because a lot of, I think in Australia or in Melbourne that I know of, there's only like handful of people doing it. And the reason is like you can join your racing teams. There's a couple of racing teams in Melbourne and Sydney where you can meet like-minded people. And there's Facebook groups like FPV Buddy on Facebook, for instance. There's a lot of guys there that basically fly for as a hobby. And you got to get a really good understanding of what's involved and how it works and everything else. To essentially pick up clients, it's tricky because a lot of people want insurance. A lot of people want to make sure that you know what you're doing before you actually go out on a client's site. And it's unfortunately one of those things where I think FPV is still quite new to the industry. And a lot of people just want to specifically focus on FPV, yet it's a very small part of the actual shoot. To be able to get an FPV drone and fly around certain clients, you need to have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. And look, to be honest with you, there's a number of times where I turn up to a client site, plug it in, and the drone's not working. And I was just like, crap, what is wrong with it? You know what I mean?
I'll go get one of the other 9 drones.
Well, I normally bring about three FPV drones with me onto a shoot. And these are the 2 that I sort of want to, bring. But like you can, you need to know what's actually wrong with it if something goes wrong, you know what I mean? So to work on a client site with a client, it takes a bit of experience and knowledge. And I think recently I've actually been doing a lot of work through the Melbourne Video Freelancers group, because all of these guys shoot normal videos on FX6s and FX3s.
They do their interview, they've got some B-roll, and then you know what, we're talking about this new building that's being opened. It'd be really nice to have, like a big swoop down shot and show everyone what the actual building looks like. But I can't do that. Marty can.
Spot on. And you know what? Like recently, as soon as I joined that group, a lot of guys, you do FPV, that'll be really cool to be able to, And I've been to, a lot of offices in the city, say new office in the city, and they just want to show off the whole office space. And we're talking about, multiple levels in Rialto Towers, which is a huge building in the city. So essentially what I do is you fly the FPV drone over the desks where it's empty space, but I did jobs where did 5 levels of FPV through the offices. And that's probably the best way to show off, and people like I said, like I've been doing this for over 5 years now, and the knowledge and experience that went into it, it does take a long time to do it. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of guys, like videographers and, agencies, and they just get me in and just say, hey, can you just do this part? And obviously I can charge a little bit more as well, because it's a very niche product, you know what I mean? So, but it's also like really fun.
All right. So if someone's hearing this for the first time and thinking, that sounds like something that is interesting to me and something I could give a go, what would your advice be to them?
Don't.
Yeah, because you want all the work.
You know what? It's funny.
But if you wanted to encourage someone to get into FPV drones.
Don't. Now, the reason why I'm saying is because, to be totally honest with you, I got back into drones, FPV drones, through COVID. Melbourne was a very strange time at that time of COVID, where we had a lot of spare time and a lot of, we couldn't really do and get out and very often. So I've spent time and effort and money. With the drones, it's unfortunately is a money pit, to be honest with you. And it's not just that, it's a knowledge pit as well, because you got to really spend a lot of time and effort and money to be able to obtain that knowledge. Just the other day, and I've got it on my Instagram account, I've plugged in, something went wrong and one of the motors burnt, you know what I mean? So I basically bought a new motor, spent $50, $60 on a new motor. Sweet, plug it in, solder it on, plug the battery in, smoke from that motor. So I just lost $60. I just lost about 3 hours of trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with it. And I haven't tested it properly. I haven't, gone into it properly. And at the end, I found out there was a problem with the flight controller and then electronic speed controllers. So essentially, I lost $60 on the motor, and then I had to buy a new flight controller and a new electronic speed controllers. And so all up, that costed me over $300 just to sort of get new equipment in. And that's one of the reasons why I say, if you want to get into it, hey, do it. And contact me if you have any questions. I know a few people, and a lot of people in Melbourne that basically are into this full on. We actually do a drone parties as well. It's as bad as it sounds, or, it sounds weird, but I've got a property. I've got 3.5 acres in Trentham and Victoria. And what I do is 3 days a year, essentially what we do. We go to that property, we set up gates, we race, we put a spit on the fire, we have some food, talk gear, talk drones, and there's probably about last time there was about 20 of us there. You know what I mean? So it's a great community thing, but yeah, it takes money, it takes time, it takes a lot of effort to be able to master those drones in a sense of that you're seeing it on the Facebook. And there's a lot of people that show show these amazing things without showing what actually goes into the back end of it and the issues, the problems, the amount of money that goes into it, you know what I mean? And the addiction, or overall addiction. So I think, it's a great, look, if anyone's got any questions, by all shoot me a message, or, my Instagram is Melbourne Videographer, and that's where I post most of my drone stuff, but also One by One Media. And essentially both of those accounts basically, come to me, or, I'm happy to answer any questions about drones or whatever else. And sharing knowledge. I'm a firm believer of actually, if anyone comes in and if they're stuck at certain thing, then I'm happy to help them. If they come to me and they go, oh, can you explain this, and that? I go, mate, just go see Joshua Bardwell, for instance, and then he will tell you a number of different, and they have to go and spend their own time and effort before they're coming, and actually, do certain things. But, like I know a number of different guys around Melbourne that they do amazing work. Like, Umbrella FPV, Dimitri, for instance, he's one of my close mates, and he chases the drift cars in Calder Park, you know what I mean? And the footage that he's getting out of that are just like mind-blowing stuff, because he gets really close to the cars. All the drivers, they know him, so they basically go, mate, sometimes, even come closer, So, there's just, it's on another level, it's just another level to do it,
Yeah, it sounds it. So if I need an FPV operator, I'll contact you.
Come to me, no worries.
Thanks, Marty, for coming on the podcast today and telling us all about FPV drones.
Rock and roll. Thank you.